Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am stressed out. How are you?
I feel like I'm a madman. I was on Capitol Hill this morning. Now we're doing a live show. I'm interviewing Governor Shapiro in an hour and then going to Mitch
Oh,
McConnell's facility later this afternoon. So,
um, I I was taking Lindsey Graham's funeral and putting it on Mitch McConnell, and I thought that you were saying I'm going to Mitch McConnell's funeral later, and I was like,
I mean, I could be. We'll
"We're
see.
hey,
Kidding.
it's a Raging Perspective. I'm Jessica Tarlov."
And I'm Aaron Parnas. And if you're just joining us, make sure to hit that subscribe button to both the Parnas Perspective and Prof G. We are growing this. We're doing this every week, but we do have a quick announcement. This is the last show for a few weeks. We won't have
Oh,
a show
right.
next week or the week after, but we will be back in mid-August after a short summer break. I'm not going anywhere. Jess is not going anywhere. We're just taking a quick break on this show, just for a couple weeks.
I actually am going somewhere.
Oh, well, I'm
I
not.
didn't tell you. Well, okay, sucks for you. I'm not going for as long as I would like. And we are on Substack and YouTube and wanting your questions.
Yeah,
So put them in the chat and we'll answer a few at the end of the show. Lot to get to. The lead story, I'm going with Fauci. I know you think Todd Blanch is the lead story, but because I read the script, I get to pick. So we're doing Fauci first. He is on Capitol Hill testifying under subpoena before the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, chaired by Senator Rand Paul, who, according to Fauci, has an unhealthy obsession with him. Fauci has invoked the Fifth Amendment. Let's take a look at a clip.
Given Senator Paul's obvious obsession with calling for my prosecution and recently his publicly releasing my unredacted personal diary, the sole reason he is calling me before this committee is to get me to say something, anything, that could vindicate his repeated public pledges that I end up, in his words, quote, behind bars, unquote. Therefore, although it pains me to do so, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
All right. I'm still
I
looking
don't
at
see you.
Fauci, and I want to be looking at you.
There we are. Okay.
Hi. Go away,
Go
Anthony.
away, Anthony
Uh,
Fauci.
no, it's just you again. Okay.
Oh, there we
Um,
are.
legal perspective. First of all, before I get your vibes, invoking the fifth. Were you surprised? Is this the right move?
100%, the
Okay.
right move. I mean, so legally it's the right move because, I mean, Fauci doesn't get anything out of testifying in front of Rand Paul, right? The goal for Rand Paul and Josh Hall and all those Republicans on the committee is to try to trap Fauci in some kind of lie or misstatement or just try to confuse him. That's the goal of this hearing. And so if I was Fauci's lawyers, I would also tell him, shut up, plead the fifth. Just because you plead the fifth, by the way, doesn't mean you committed a crime. And I think that's something that people don't
Right.
talk about enough. It's just your right. Every American has that right. It's a right against self incrimination. It's a right to avoid incriminating yourself, not to avoid talking about a crime you may have committed. And so Fauci pleading the fifth makes sense. Now, Hawley tried to say, well, you were pardoned, so you don't have the right. Just because you're pardoned doesn't mean you actually lose your constitutional right to plead the fifth against self incrimination. And also, the pardon to me does not actually extend to this hearing, right? The pardon is what Fauci, up until a point, if Fauci were to lie in front of Congress, in front of the committee, that pardon wouldn't cover that lie. So, yes, it's smart. Legally, politically, it's not smart because Republicans are just going to run wild and fill in the gaps for Fauci. But he had no choice.
Yeah, I mean, I do increasingly feel, and I use increasingly, like the whole last 10 years of my life working in conservative media, that the only way that they can get anywhere is by looking back, right? Everything is just the fault of the last Democrat. And Anthony Fauci, actually, I don't even think he has known politics. And he did get a presidential commendation from Donald Trump, who said that he was like a hero of the pandemic. So I'm not even necessarily including Fauci in like the Democratic bucket, but certainly there were Republicans versus Democrats in the way COVID was handled. A few Republicans, like Governor DeWine, for instance, did have pretty stringent shutdown policies on a relative basis, but they can't litigate the present, so they have to litigate the past. And I read a lot of the diary entries. It is a shame that they were on government servers, which is how they were able to gain access to them. I think some of it was pretty embarrassing. I don't think any of it was malicious.
Yeah,
And how quickly we forget how insane of a time COVID was
yeah.
and how scared everybody was of getting this disease, that now even members of the Senate on the Republican side, like Roger Marshall, who is a medical doctor, are poo-pooing it as just like the common flu. And I don't know how you stitch a country back together when people will either brazenly lie like that or have blacked out like 2 or 3 years of our lives, but and I talked about this on the 5 yesterday, when you look through Fauci's career over the 50 years plus, you see an incredibly dedicated public servant that saved millions of lives
Sure.
here and abroad, and I hate that that narrative is not part of what's going on today, or any of the discourse right now about Anthony Fauci. Good for people like Jerome Adams, who is the Surgeon General, for standing up for him, but like in general, this just feels so shitty.
Well, they needed someone to blame, right? They needed Trump needed and
But you
Republicans.
don't need to talk about it anymore. You actually don't need someone to blame.
Well, they want someone to blame. They really do. I mean, they want someone to blame for the fact that the president of the United States during the pandemic mishandled the pandemic, and so they threw it on Dr. Fauci. When in reality, Dr. Fauci wasn't the one standing up at the press podium saying, "Oh, inject light into your veins. It'll just go. It'll all go away. Or if you don't test, you won't actually have any cases." Like that's what was coming from the president, not from Dr. Fauci. And I mean, listen, I think at the end of the day, it's funny. I read parts of the diary. If you FOIA'd every single conversation these Republican senators had during the COVID pandemic, just imagine what's in there. Okay, like like FOIA my text messages. Like look at my text messages during the pandemic. Like
Don't give them any
I mean
idea.
they can't. But like I'm saying like that like, everyone says crazy stuff behind the scenes. Doesn't mean it's real.
No, and then they're just humiliating people. Like the Barbara Streisand part of this, like every Republican that is just desperate for anyone to say anything remotely nice about them. Like, you think that there's any chance that Donald Trump wouldn't write down that Barbara Streisand called him and said, like, "You're helping the country?"
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
yeah, exactly.
And then to expose her medical condition, which I will
It,
not repeat here because it is not ladylike, but my
like,
colleagues repeated it, and I was like, "Don't do that to Babs."
well,
Like, that's not right.
Greg Gutfeld is not ladylike, so
No, he is not ladylike. Barbara, we love you. Okay, now to your top story.
Todd Blanch.
Todd Blanch, you were just down on the Hill. Jay Clayton was confirmed to become the new DNI. Bill Pulte is trying to avoid him actually taking the position. I don't know if Pulte has any authority to be able to slow roll that when he actually will become or step into the role. And now there is a conversation that perhaps Todd Blanch won't be confirmed as Attorney General. GOP Senator John Cornyn says he's not prepared to support the confirmation as of now. What is the latest?
So I think he will get confirmed.
With
Because
Cornyn's vote?
no. Oh, so here's the thing: Republicans always do this thing where they're like, "Oh, we're wishy washy. We're concerned. We don't know," and then they end up falling in line at the end of it. I have no hope in a lot of ways, but here is the latest. I was just on the Hill with about a dozen survivors, and they were walking around giving the Epstein files to senators on the Judiciary Committee, first Republicans, but also Democrats, but specifically the Republicans who just refused to even open the files up. And so, some big news. They got Tillis said essentially, "Hey, I want to meet with you guys before making a decision." So that's a big situation. Cornyn also met with them. I sat outside of the office while they were meeting. Not Cornyn. Cornyn's counsel met with them. The latest is this: Blanche was supposed to have a meeting with John Cornyn on Capitol Hill today to discuss the future of his confirmation. Cornyn canceled that meeting about an hour before because Blanche didn't uphold his end of the bargain. Cornyn's big issue isn't Epstein; it's this weaponization fund. He
Right.
wants a amendment signed by the Department of Justice, and theoretically Trump would have to sign it as well, saying we're never going to do this weaponization fund no matter what. Blanche is not going to do that, hasn't been willing to do that. And so we're kind of in a standstill. There's a vote tomorrow in front of the Judiciary Committee to move Blanche's confirmation forward. Now, what people don't really get about the Senate is that Blanche's confirmation could not move forward out of the Judiciary Committee, and he could still get confirmed by the entire Senate. He doesn't need to have a yes vote tomorrow. It could be a no vote, and they could still push his confirmation to the full Senate floor and just say, you know what, we're going to vote. It's happened before. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't know that the vote will even go forward. I don't think they will vote unless they have all of their ducks in a row. So it's a bit of a chaotic mess on Capitol Hill right now, but the survivors are really doing it, and I'm just hearing that I think they're going to push the vote. Is what I'm hearing right now. So
Oh, like literally right now? Like breaking
I
news
just got a
banner?
text saying vote is not happening. So looks like the vote is getting pushed, but that hasn't been announced yet.
Okay. Well, it was just announced because we're live, and you're the only person who I don't get irritated with when they're reading their text messages while we're on a live stream or a record, because it's breaking news and not just like, what do you want
Breaking
for
news.
dinner?
Exactly.
Though always thinking about what you want for dinner. It's really interesting to me on the Cornyn front, and a few other senators asked about the weaponization fund when they were questioning Blanche, but like no one seems to care about the IRS element that Trump's basically like, we
Yeah.
have blanket immunity from the IRS in perpetuity. Is that a thing at all, or it's just straight up the weaponization fund?
It's just straight up the weaponization fund, which is killing me because I think the weaponization fund is egregious in many respects, but it's one that will be blocked by the courts, in my opinion, repeatedly.
Mm.
Whereas this audit agreement between Trump, his family, and the IRS, that is like corruption to the nth degree. That is worse to me than the weaponization fund because no one actually has an ability to challenge it. The only people that can challenge it are the parties to the agreement. And the parties to the agreement aren't going to challenge it. So there's no standing for any American citizens to say, hey, this is wrong. And it's just also like two systems of justice, right? They can still audit you. They can still audit
I
me.
know.
They
I think
can't audit
about it
them.
all the time.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I don't have any reason, I guess, to think about it more than any other outspoken Trump hater or whatever. And there's a long list of us, and like maybe he'll go after Maddow before he would go after me. I'm just doing the black glasses connection. But I feel like every liberal thinks about it. Actually, I had Mark Elias on, and he was like, "It's definitely me before you," but like, I don't
Oh,
know. They don't like you
they're going to try
much.
to throw Mark in jail.
Mark, we love you. I'll visit you. Um,
I'll bring
That's a
commentary.
terrible joke. I was about to then also say, like, orange isn't a terrible color, but it's a bad color for me, and it's not a good one for Mark Elias, and Mark Elias is going to be fine. Um, do you think that Bill Pulte is going to be successful in delaying
No.
Jay Clayton? Okay, and do you think Jay Clayton, even though he was pretty I was gonna curse again, but you know how Jay Clayton, somebody who clearly knows who won the 2020 election, danced around it in his confirmation hearing and has been more Trumpy than you would
Yeah.
expect from someone who had bipartisan support. Do you think he is going to act like a normal DNI, or he's
I I
going
think
to
I think he'll act like a normal DNI.
okay. So this is a good thing.
But what's a normal DNI? Because
I don't
Tulsi
know, like
Tulsi wasn't a normal DNI.
well, obviously not. No, that no, I was separating him from Tulsi Gabbard. Like, will he be, walking around Fulton County, like looking for paper ballots or whatever?
I think he
I
could. I mean, listen, here's the thing. Normal to me is I don't know, like John Ratcliffe during Trump 1 was normal DNI. I think we may get more of that rather than Tulsi and Bill Pulte.
On the John Ratcliffe front, he actually has been a pretty normal CIA director.
Which
Also,
I'm kind of curious about because Trump is completely undermining everything Ratcliffe said in the first go around. Ratcliffe was the one who said that there was no election interference back in 2020 and all that
yeah,
jazz.
and also said about the war in Iran that it was complete bullshit. What BB was saying
Correct.
did we say farcical? Bullshit and farcical. Okay, I President Zelensky and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, both in Washington yesterday for Senator Lindsey Graham's memorial service. They both had meetings with President Trump. They also seemingly had a pretty frosty conversation, which we didn't get the audio of it, but just the video, you could tell that those were not happy boys. Iran has launched a surprise attack against US forces overnight. Trump told Fox this morning, "We're going to beat the fucking shit out of them. We'll be hitting them hard." I mean, I don't believe that. But
What have we been doing the past 2 weeks? Have we not been hitting them hard?
well, we did take a break.
Yeah,
Remember?
because
We
we're
took
running out
3
of
nights
weapons.
off because 'cause we're running out of weapons, but that's also a big lie, apparently, and makes you a traitor for having said it. I always add the disclaimer, according to to the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. That keeps you safe. Um, what do you think happened in those meetings, though, with Israel and with Ukraine? The relationship between Bibi and Trump has been very outwardly frosty, even with Trump saying repeatedly, like, "Bibi's gotta knock it off." Like, "I don't need
Yeah.
his permission to go after Pickaxe Mountain," or whatever it is.
So I actually think it's very interesting because it's like what is it like your enemy's friend is your I don't know whatever that saying is.
Yeah,
Bibi and Zelensky have a vested interest in this
right,
Iran war. And I think it's going to turn into a much larger conflict very soon. I think you're going to pull Russia in. I think you're going to pull Ukraine in even more. People forget that in 2020, when Trump assassinated Soleimani, the IRGC general, the Iranians were firing missiles. And one of those missiles, whether intentional or accidental, hit a Ukrainian airliner, killing 176 people on board, several of which were Ukrainian nationals. The Ukrainians never got revenge for that moment where a number of their people were killed by the IRGC. And so now you have, and then in 2022, Iranian drones were starting to get shipped, the Shahed drones, to Russia to
right.
use on the battlefield in Ukraine. So, in a lot of ways, the war in Ukraine is not just Russia versus Ukraine, it's Ukraine versus Russia, Iran, and North Korea, which are the belligerents on the other side. And so that's why you see Zelensky willing to shoot at a Iranian ship in the Caspian Sea, for example, recently, and why I think Zelensky is sharing intelligence with the Americans and probably with the Israelis and will actually increase his involvement in this war moving forward. He sees Russia as vulnerable. If he can degrade Iran and get in a bit of a shooting match right now with Iran, that would be I mean that would lessen what Russia essentially gets from Iran in terms of drones. So Netanyahu and Zelensky are kind of aligned in that respect, in that they both kind of want to take out Iran right now for different reasons. Now, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would just add to that, one of the details, of the saga of the war in Iran is that the Ukrainians came to the Americans last summer to offer them assistance in dealing with Iranian drones and a cheaper way, these Shahed drones, to take them out so that we didn't have to be using $4 million
Yeah.
missiles to take out a $20,000 drone. I we laughed them out of the room essentially, and we're like, no big deal, we got it. And now, of course, tail between our legs, we're coming back to beg for, support and certainly an education on doing an asymmetric war, which it
Yeah.
seems like we are woefully incapable of doing. It is interesting. I had a lot of problems with Lindsey Graham, but his support for Ukraine was not one of them. And he really used as much capital as he could with President Trump to be supportive of getting the Ukrainians everything that they were asking for. That did not come to full fruition, didn't get the Tomahawks, for instance. But there is the Lindsey Graham connection as well, between Israel and Ukraine there. And I wonder who fills that role now that he's out of the Senate. His sister obviously can't pull that off to the same degree, and doesn't have those kinds of longstanding relationships in the foreign policy space, even though she says her focus is going to be domestic. Were there any takeaways for you from the memorial service? Thought it was crazy
Did
that
you
they
see that?
turned like a funeral into a Trump rally.
Did you see the little tap that
Oh,
Trump?
the tap. Do you hate it when he's so funny?
I think, I mean, like, it's just like,
It
yeah,
kills me.
it's just like the little tap, and then him like reading the eulogy, and then it's like, everyone liked Lindsay from Republic. Actually, no, not everyone liked Lindsay. And then Sean Hannity, Lindsay's Mar-a-Lago in the sky with all gold plate. Like, it's just so weird, weird.
It
But it
is
also it.
also weird.
I was sad, honestly, watching it because it didn't seem like Lindsey Graham had many like close family members. Like it wasn't like the Carter's funeral when Jimmy Carter's funeral,
Oh,
it was completely different. It was like his grandson was speaking, like his entire family was there, and like here you have Sean Hannity eulogizing.
eulogizing. Yeah. I
Eulo-
mean, he did have, he didn't have kids of his own.
yeah.
But it seemed like he was obviously very close with his sister, and his sister's daughter, I thought, did a lovely job. And that story about how she had just her mom was calling Lindsay the day that he passed away to tell her that she was pregnant with their second kid. I felt a little guilty then for being so merciless about him seemingly being at Disney World by himself with a wand, and like how pervy and weird that seemed when he was
Bubble
probably with her
wand.
kids. The bubble wand. Anyway, uh RIP, you shouldn't have kissed up to Trump like that and abandoned majority of your values. Is my parting message to Lindsey Graham until we have more news on it. I'm sure it will continue to live on. And the funeral is like 4 days, right?
Is it?
I think so. I mean, not the coverage of it like that, but when
Okay.
you go through, because also he served and
You
okay.
know, who is also what I'm focusing on more in terms of funerals and like what's really bad. Seniors are going to start dying because they can't afford prescription drugs because Trump decided to end Medicare Part D. And I know we're
Ye-
skipping a little bit here,
No,
but
no, no. I'm into it. Let's
but it,
go.
it got me really upset because Medicare Part D is a bipartisan program meant to lower
Yes.
costs for prescription drugs for seniors and disabled Americans, those most vulnerable in America's society. And now many of them will have to choose whether or not to pay their rent or get their prescription drugs, and will ultimately not make America healthy again, but make America sick again, and make America more unaffordable than it was before. And so that to me is honestly one of the biggest stories that truly not enough people are talking about.
100% adding to the mix on that Dr. Oz knows better,
Yeah.
or he used to know better, and that he's claiming that the change is as a result of that there was a quote unquote bailout that's no longer needed. That's the language they use for everything, like the ACA subsidies. I was looking at the data for Michigan, for instance. 130,000 Michiganders dropped their ACA policy
Yeah.
because the subsidies were canceled. So, like, if you want to call it a bailout or not, it's still how people get their health care. And do you have any idea also how much more expensive it is going to get for you if people don't have their insurance coverage? I don't mind at all that you skipped ahead to that. I used to focus a lot actually on Medicare Part D and an old job of mine and writing about it and the value of it, especially having a policy or a program that has bipartisan support. It happens so rarely now. And, you know, to the credit of the program of Medicare in general. It's one of the only government programs that has such a high approval rating. It's why people talk about that we need Medicare for all, for
Yeah.
instance, and especially to see seniors themselves railing against it, and supporting a rollback like this when they're all happily on it, and can't wait until you get to the point where you get that kind of coverage. Like my dad, who had cancer for years and years and went to some of the fanciest institutions of the country, was at Sloan Kettering. He went and had experimental treatment at the University of Chicago because there was a guy that was trying something that was supposed to be
Yeah.
magic, like all covered on Medicare. Um, so
It's
that
sad.
hurt.
It's really, really, really sad. And seniors deserve better.
They do deserve better. Democrats, take note. You got to go hard on this one for sure. That brings us to another senior who is getting medical attention, Mitch McConnell.
Is he getting medical attention?
I mean, maybe. I don't. I'm just watching all of the AI videos of like Elaine Chao, like compressing the cardboard cutout of Mitch
Yeah.
McConnell from the proof of life
Yeah.
picture that doesn't seem that proof of lifey. What do you think is going on now, and what do you make of Andy Bashir's moves in the last few days on this front?
Well, a couple things. Number one, I think that Andy Bashir's hands are a bit tied here.
Yeah.
He can't really do much. Now, the one thing I would tell his team truly is like, go do a press conference in front of the hospital. Like, bring the fight directly to McConnell. Like that's what I would do if I were him. But he can't really do much. He can't call a special election. I don't actually think it's in his best interest to do so because a vote
No,
without,
we would lose it
yeah,
also.
Republicans would win that.
Now they're down a vote, which is kind of nice when you
Yeah.
think of how much they're trying to ram through.
But I listen. I've been to that hospital multiple times, both as a student and now covering this. I think his team is playing word games, which is very interesting because they're like he was discharged from hospital care. He wasn't discharged from the
Right.
hospital. And GW's hospital has an acute rehab facility on the 4th floor. Don't go. By the way, if you're in DC, don't go. They're not going to let you in. I guarantee.
You're like, I tried.
I guarantee you, he's there in that rehab facility. The question is, how long can he be there? And ultimately, it'll be up to his constituents to say something.
Yeah, and you have a right to representation.
Yeah,
And people get sick, and everyone understands that. But for it to go on this long and seemingly with no end in sight, and to not think that you owe your constituents more than just, I just, need a few more days. And notice no one has talked to him for 20 minutes lately.
correct.
Remember
Well,
Scott Jennings?
now it's I don't know if you saw, but the latest is like, oh, I know someone who visited him.
Me too. And it's
Yeah.
Aaron Parnas who's going to get the scoop this afternoon. Last thing, quickly, a former aide of Gavin Newsom, Ruby Rippey, has come forward with new details about her affair with Newsom 2 decades ago. Do you think this is a thing? It was known that this happened. He has owned up to it and talked about it before. It feels like 2028 is beginning, though, that we're in this cycle.
Listen, here's the thing. I'm just going to put this out there. If having an affair is disqualifying to be president, then what? Like Trump? Are we really
Well,
going to be doing this? Like that? This isn't. I mean, okay, like it didn't get much coverage because Newsom's already spoken about it publicly, right? He's owned up to it. He's talked about it, and that's a family matter. And B, like we have so many bigger issues in this world.
I know. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I'm going through folks that I think are running, and we have very few affairs, or at least ones that we publicly know about now. Like,
They'll come. I'm sure they'll come.
don't do that. Josh Shapiro didn't do it, though.
No. And no, I'm not going to try to say someone had an affair. No.
No. Yes, we will learn more.
Yes, we will learn more.
I would put our team against their team in the philandering, and I think that we would win and be good.
Probably.
Now I'm literally scanning my brain. I'm like, what do you think? All right. Questions from the audience. Trixie, best name ever, if that is actually your name. I love it. She asks, is Donald Trump trying to crash the global economy to escape the US debt? That is some higher level thinking that I think Donald Trump is not capable of.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Also, he can't single-handedly crash the global economy. He can't.
Also, the debt is too
The,
much.
the debt is too high. I mean, we're
Which
never going to
he
escape.
was the single highest contributor to it. Never forget from the first
Yeah.
term. He spends like a loose Democrat. Um, okay, Maria asks, what policy changes can the Democrats prepare for a future when they might take back control of Congress?
Nothing. They won't get anything passed with the president
Don't
in
do that.
office. No, no. I think people need to be very realistic. They don't need to be like optimism is important, but like realism is also very important here. If Democrats win the House and the Senate, the goal isn't to pass policy because no policy will actually get through to a White House that will just veto everything and you're never going to have veto proof majorities. The goal is investigate, investigate, investigate. Use the powers of the federal government to cause living hell for this administration and find out where all the money has been mismanaged, where um, subpoena the hell out of family members of Trump, businesses, etc. That's the goal. Root out the corruption, and they can do that. They don't need the White House approval to do that. So that should be the goal for Democrats. They're not going to pass like Medicare for all without a Democratic president. Unless you have a Democratic president, you can't really do much. But the final question, Jess, is don't you get extreme? This is from Chris. Jessica, don't you get extremely angry every day after the 5?
Chris, not every day. A lot of days, not every day. Fridays, I actually leave in a particularly good mood because we end on Fan Mail Friday, which is always fun. But I do get angry. I do get amped up. I struggle sometimes. And I've given a lot of thought to this, which is why I wrote my book, I Disagree, which is coming out in September. I've just started doing book events. I did one yesterday, and I'm going to do a clip from it that I'll put up on social. Pre order the book. I'm going on tour. Aaron and I are going to do an event together in DC on September 24th. I also have a very cute tour card graphic that we'll be posting soon. Anyway, if you want to hear about my anger issues and how I stay so composed and zen, make sure that you order I Disagree. And I won't see you next Wednesday, which feels really weird to me
No, but we
because
will be back. Let me look at my calendar.
I think it's the 12th,
August
right?
12th. No,
Uh, yeah.
August 19th. We're just skipping 1 week.
No. Oh, 2 weeks. Oh,
Yeah,
it feels so long. I mean, I'll text
August
you a lot in
19th.
the interim.
But
August
I will
19th.
still be here. I'm not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Aaron has to break all the news. I have to be angry privately. This is great. I think we'll look
Subscribe.
at the
See you
comments and
guys
see if it
soon.
was. Bye.